Hello, and welcome to the Adventures on the Can-Do podcast. I'm your host, Jothy Rosenberg, aka the Incorrigible Entrepreneur. Adventures on the Can-Do explores the challenges and rewards of entrepreneurship, overcoming adversity, and where grit and perseverance can get you. My new book, Think Like a Startup Founder, based on my experiences founding 9 startups, seeks to help early-stage founders avoid the many pitfalls that they can experience along the way. And this podcast adds to that stories of many fascinating founders who are my guests. You can see all the episodes of this podcast on my website, jothyrosenberg.com. Also, please follow and rate us at podchaser.com/designing successful startups. Now, let me introduce today's guest, Adam Packard. Adam is the founder of Ninja Prospecting. He has over 2 decades experience in sales and networking. Over the past 7 years, he's assisted thousands of professionals in optimizing their impact through LinkedIn. Growing up in Maine, he initially pursued a career in golf, but found it financially unrewarding. Following various ventures, including managing seminars for sales trainer Tom Hopkins, he discovered the power of personalized greeting cards. Transitioning to a network marketing model, he built a successful business for 12 years. Then, facing unexpected challenges, he joined the corporate world but eventually returned to entrepreneurship. Leveraging his diverse background, he found success in lead generation on LinkedIn. Encouraged by his wife, he expanded his services, combining networking, sales training, copywriting, and a genuine interest in others' success. Today at Ninja Prospecting, they prioritize quality over quantity, offering customized solutions to help clients achieve faster success. And here's Adam. Hey, Adam.
Hey.
Welcome to the podcast episode.
Thank you. It's nice to be on the other side of the table for once.
Yep.
I
And
appreciate it.
it's so funny because you look so professional in the new outfit.
Which is so funny because this is dressed up for me. I usually joke that I'm always wearing a hat or a hoodie unless I'm going to a wedding or a funeral. But yeah, this is my new look. So,
all right. Well, we'll take advantage of it. Just say a little bit about because I think it's phenomenal that you grew up in Maine, which is way up here in the country, and now you live in probably the hottest place other than Death Valley, Phoenix, and I'm just guessing that the whole reason you went there was golf.
you're not wrong. Yeah, I didn't move directly. I went to school in Pennsylvania, then lived in Denver for a few years, and then down to Phoenix about 20 years ago. So, but yeah, the golf season in Maine was 3 months. I remember playing in the state championship, and the ground was frozen and it was snowing. And it was just, yeah, as a golfer, I had to get out west.
There's a new meaning of a sand trap when it's actually a snow trap.
It's more like asphalt, yeah. Just frozen sand, yeah.
So if you were a golf pro, you must be really good.
I'm pretty good. I can get it around. I'll take some money from you anytime you want to go out there and tee it up.
I don't play. I don't. Golf is one of the sports I don't do. But I mean, how often are you getting out nowadays?
Once every couple weeks. Right now, not a ton. It's just hard with the 8-year-old at home, and of course summer now. So, but usually once every couple weeks I'll get out and take some money off some friends. But it's more for fun now.
So they must make accommodation for like you could really, really early morning tee times when the day is going to be 120.
Oh, we can tee off in the summer. I think the first tee time's at like 6:20, 6:30. So we get off and we're done by 9. And so it's perfect. And everybody's like, yeah, it's hot out there, but it's a dry heat. And that's 110 is 110. But I always tell people you never have to shovel sunshine. So, I'm not a cold weather guy. I'm more of a warm weather guy. So I prefer being able to jump in my pool. It's 90 degrees and enjoying the warm weather. And what's nice about Phoenix is you can drive an hour and a half north and be at 7,000 feet elevation, and it's 30 degrees cooler, and it's like a whole different world. So it's a great place to live.
Where do they get all the water for the golf course?
That's a good question. I don't know. The Rocky Mountains, it just kind of trickles its way down to us.
Okay, so you are you're a startup guy. You've got a startup right now. It's called Ninja Prospecting, and in your bio, we talked about some of the things you did before that, but really you came out of the corporate world, and you saw some things, and I would love for you to describe kind of what was the thought process that led you to doing what you're doing now, and then we'll kind of take it from there.
Yeah, I've been in networking and sales for most of my life after my career in the golf business. And I kind of fell into this. It's not something that I thought I would ever do. When I got laid off from a corporate position, I had a friend that had a new startup, and he reached out to me. We've been friends for a while. We've done some business together in the past. And he said, "Hey, I have this new startup. Can you help me generate some business?" And they were trying, I was actually in the golf business, and they were selling GPS devices that go on the golf cart. So if you ever play a golf course and has the GPS so you can see the hole in front of you, and they were basically selling advertising on those units. And so he's like, I need to sell advertising. And so I had never sold advertising a day in my life. So I literally went to Google and typed in how to sell advertising. Who do you market to? And the list of, media buyers and agencies and those types of things came up. And I realized the only place I could find them was on LinkedIn. I always had a LinkedIn account, had never really used it. And so trial and error, just got in there and figured out what works and what doesn't. We landed some national clients for them, which was really cool. And then my wife was actually the one that said, "Hey, you're pretty good at this. You should do this for other people." And that's kind of how it started. So it was helping a friend out, started to do it for other people. And of course, it's changed quite a bit in the last 7 years. Now we've got it pretty well refined and working well. But that's kind of how I fell into this whole space of marketing and business development for people.
It's funny how a little comment from a spouse can just make
so great. She's such she's like my biggest fan. Like, she talks me up to everybody and just, is amazed at what we've created here. But yeah, without her, supporting, obviously she does a ton to support me in the business. So, but yeah, she kind of was the one that said, do this for other people. This is kind of your thing. And it was great timing. I was in a corporate role, but I knew I was not going to stay there for my career. I'm not a corporate guy. Never have been. So it was my first real job. Because out of college, I worked at golf courses. I don't consider that really corporate. Then I worked for a motivational speaker. That wasn't really corporate because I didn't have an office job. Then I was in network marketing for 15 years, working from home. And so when I took the corporate role, it was definitely kind of, having to clock in and clock out and be on someone else's, schedule. They kind of knew that I wasn't going to be there long term. And then they had a reshuffling and laid off about 200 people from the company all at once. And I found myself, one of the newer guys that they let go, which, was a blessing and a curse. Of course, when it happens, you're like, what am I going to do? And I have no income. And, they give me a 3-month severance. And what's the next step? We have, family and a home and, children to support. And but it was kind of that push I needed, kind of, okay, time to get back to doing your own thing. And then when I had that friend reach out, that's kind of what spurred the whole thing.
Well, without giving away any trade secrets, can you explain? So right now, LinkedIn has, I think I just saw the number, 950 million users on it. And in some fields, everyone like mine, everyone is on LinkedIn. But what you do is something that it's not super obvious and straightforward, or else you wouldn't have a job or you wouldn't have a business. Um, I even put some stuff in my book about how, when you're looking for, you're trying to sell to somebody, and there's, besides Sales Navigator, which is, like a separate tool they kind of provide that mines the same database, but you can just use the search in a way that most people don't know about. And so there's all this stuff that's somewhat hidden in LinkedIn. Is all of what you do through Sales Navigator? First question, is that true?
For the most part, yeah. I mean, Sales Navigator is not perfect by any stretch. It could be a lot better. I would say 90% of our clients probably use Sales Navigator. We require it because we need to be able to, find the right people and do more outreach and stuff. I do have some clients that we build outside lists for, whether it's I want to target the, founders or CEOs of an Inc. 5000 list, or I need to find people that are in Series A or Series B funding stages, because you can't get that granular inside of Sales Navigator. So we might need to use Apollo or ZoomInfo or a tool like that to be able to build a list. But the preference is always to use Sales Navigator, because that allows us to not only find the right people, but find people who are more active on the platform. And that increases the chance of, kind of getting that conversation going.
So, full disclosure, I'm actually been a customer of your service.
We prefer client. Customer
okay.
Client is under the care of someone else. Customer is someone you do a transaction with. You were a client, yes. So I take care of my people.
Okay, I was a very happy client, and so you asked me for some words, to describe what it was I was looking for. And at that point, I started to see some results. So the rest was a little opaque to me. But how much of it is automated and how much of it is manual, from the point at which you got a sense of you had me fill out, by the way, this one of the largest intake forms I've ever seen. Did you do that as a test, or did you actually use that information?
I use that for everybody. Yeah. I had one client that messaged me the other day. She's like, it took me 3 hours to fill this thing out. She's like, but I would say 95, close to 100% of the people that we send it to, they think it's a great exercise, because, when you start to look at marketing, unless you kind of have it dialed in, it's hard to you can't be general in your approach. You can't be general in your audience or your offer. And so it does a good job of kind of giving us that 30,000 foot view of what are we trying to do? Who are you, and how do we make this work for you? So yeah, we use that for everybody.
No, I knew it was important. And I think it did take me 3 hours. I didn't quite finish it. I got to a certain point and I said, all right, I've just decided you've got all you need.
Yeah, some people do that too. They're like, yeah, I'll skip that question. And yeah, so it can be a little redundant, but sometimes that makes you think a little bit deeper, because the goal is really to kind of get inside the head of the person you're trying to reach out to. And if we can do that, then when we reach out and start that conversation, it hits home.
Mm-hmm. And so how much of it is, once you get all that, how much are you able to, do you have some bots that you're using that go in and do all this, or
no, it's actually everything. There is no automation whatsoever. Everybody always asks, do you guys use AI? And we don't, because I don't think AI, and what we do from a copywriting standpoint to help start these conversations, I haven't found a way to kind of inject that personality of the person that we're working with. So everything is done manually, from the creation of everything to the execution of it. So we're not using, and LinkedIn's against bots and automation anyway. So if they catch you using it, they'll shut you down. And so about 6 years ago, we moved to a completely manual process. So we do all the creative work. We do all the strategy, all the copy and targeting. And then I hand that off to my team, and they're the ones that actually execute everything manually, which is safer. It's more consistent, more targeted. But yeah, there's no automation whatsoever. It's all done manually.
I I'm not surprised that they object to bots, but I wasn't sure that would necessarily dissuade everybody from using them.
They still
anyway.
use them. Yeah, it's almost like that gray area. I think LinkedIn kind of looks the other way because it brings in users and a lot of premium subscriptions when people are using software and automation. And a lot of people use them, but I always caution people against it because the last place you want to be is LinkedIn jail, which is basically they've restricted your account. You can't log in. Then you have to kind of like prove that you didn't do something, which could be challenging. So yeah, that's why we moved away. And we kind of pride ourselves in being the opposite. And so if we're the opposite, we're not doing any automation. We're doing everything manually. And that's a big kind of selling factor for us.
And they probably love it because they're still getting all the additional Sales Navigator licenses. And
yeah, now we're a very tiny subset of the 950 million people obviously using LinkedIn. So, but yeah, I think having that differentiator helps us stand out in a very crowded marketplace.
Okay, so here you are. You've got this. You're a bunch of ninjas that are prospecting, and now you've had some discussions with me, but let's have those a little bit more here about what you find not working and what your long-term vision is for what you'd like to see this become.
Yeah, and I think our offer and our program has changed probably 20 times in the last 7 years because I'm always looking at what everybody else is doing and trying to be different. There are a lot of agencies out there. There are a lot of marketing companies. Most of them charge a high monthly fee, like a retainer type of model. Our model is a little bit different. And so we're kind of building out a system, giving you all the tools and resources and team to execute that system. So we do charge a setup to build everything out, but then I'm giving away my tools and my team at cost every month. So it's a slightly different model. And then we do coaching and support on the back end. So a little bit different in the fact that we're not charging $1,000, $2,000 a month to do the work. My goal is to build a huge referral-based business, obviously charge enough up front to make it worth our time to build the system. But for about the cost of one client, for most people, they can build a system that can do all this stuff for them on autopilot, even though it's not automated, where it can bring in clients regularly. It's kind of our goal. Kind of flip the script on the model.
And what you're trying to do is something that's a lot more scalable than what you can do right now.
Yeah, so that's the long-term play. Obviously, been doing this for a while, and I'm still very involved in the process because I really enjoy the strategy part, like talking to you and saying, okay, what's going to work best for you, and kind of coming up with the best game plan. I enjoy that part of it because it's the creative part that I like. So I'm still very hands-on in the beginning, but the goal as we grow and scale is to, obviously leverage the knowledge that we have and how to actually create this and do it the right way from the beginning, but then give that away to people and then offer coaching on the back end to kind of help them maximize it and leverage it. So that's how we'll be able to scale, is bringing in the right team to be able to kind of take some of that fulfillment stuff off the plate.
Yeah, you love coaching.
I enjoy it.
Book about it.
Yeah,
you wrote a book about it.
I did. Yeah, it hasn't been published yet, but it's on my to-do list to finalize and get that out there.
I read it. I loved it. It's about a golf course too, and I didn't realize the extreme importance of it of what a golf course, why a golf course would be in your book. Now I got it. I didn't know you were a golf pro before.
Yeah. And the title of the book is called The Caddy Master. So it's if you haven't been at a golf course, some of these courses don't have golf carts; they have caddies. And I actually worked at a golf course when I was 20 in New York, and there were no golf carts. There were only caddies, and I was the caddy master. So I was the guy that was, assigned
you were that guy?
caddies. Yeah. So now that character's not me in the book, but yeah, that's kind of the connection to golf.
Well, if when we had all those other Zoom calls and whatnot, if sitting behind you was a picture of the Masters, then I would have started asking golf questions. But
Yeah.
I never saw that before. All I ever saw was your New England Patriots hat, which of course I really appreciated.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we just moved, so I gotta fill in the office a little bit, but yeah, I want to put some stuff behind me where it kind of gives a little glimpse into me and what's important to me. So golf obviously is one of them, family. So yeah, my wall's going to be filled up with some other stuff here shortly.
What's behind me these days is all the items that we're going to be auctioning off on Saturday for our fundraiser for the nonprofit foundation that my family runs.
So that's awesome. That's awesome.
I got to tell you about this one. So there's a local shop, wine shop that, and the owner and I have become friends. And for the last 2 years, he's been donating wine, and he gives me some high-end wines. But the first time he did it, he gave me 2. And then last year he gave me 4, 2 reds and 2 whites. And they were nice, really nice wines. This year, I go in there 2 days ago, in fact, is when he did it. He gave me 9 bottles of wine, 3 Pinots, 3 Cabs, and 3 Italians. And the total value of the 9 wines is $718.
Some good wine.
It is. I mean, the way he does his shelves is that the really cheap wines are at the floor, and on the top shelf, the cheapest thing on there is like $55 and up. Yeah. And in between is in between. And so he's walking around saying, okay, I want to give you 3 of these. And he's just picking from the top shelf. So I know we're getting, the primo stuff. And it's going to be a huge hit, because I know there's some people that are coming that are wine aficionados. Still, it's so hard to get enough to pay for one running prosthetic leg, which is about $20,000, $21,000 for a child's running leg. They are very expensive.
That's crazy.
Yep. Well, we'll just have to figure out other ways to raise more money. But this is our 10th anniversary. That's
awesome. No, that's awesome what you do.
So back to this. Okay, so I know where you want to see this go, but and you've said a little bit about how you'd shift this model, and and one of the main things is that it's pretty leveraged, and you're gonna be able to leverage the team and the tools that you've developed, and essentially give those to third parties. That now how will that third party pay you? What will you be selling them? Will it be the tools? Is that what you're selling them? The tools?
No, we'll be giving away that at cost. I'm not going to make anything on that. So you need someone to help you with copywriting. I've got copywriters. You need someone to help you execute it. Obviously, we have that part covered. I'll be compensated on the back end, where they want to have help with coaching, support, sales training, mindset work, business building, right? A lot of the people that we work with are newer entrepreneurs, newer business owners. Now all of a sudden they're wearing 15 different hats, and I'm a big believer of staying in your lane of what you're really good at. And if you can do that and outsource and find the right partners to kind of come in and fill in some of the other gaps, I want to be the company that gives so much away that people want to hire us to help them kind of execute on it. So that's the goal, is to, kind of be that provider for people to be able to generate the conversations and be good at marketing and have a team on the back end to be able to execute this, and then leverage that. And hopefully I'd love to get some more, speaking work. I've spoken quite a bit over the last 20 years. I enjoy that part. Do more writing. I want to write more. So it'll free my time up to do more of the creative stuff and add more value, whether it's, every month coming up with a new idea or new strategy and then sharing that with the community. Because marketing and things that are working are always changing. So if I can kind of stay on top of that and spend more time doing that versus the, little day-to-day operational stuff that I have to do now, that's kind of the goal long term.
So does the name still work? Is it still Ninja Prospecting?
I'd like to change it to Ninja Marketing eventually, but that's a whole thing. When we first started, I think I've had 4 or 5 different names. At one point it was getyourlinkonNinja was our website. And so I would send emails out, but all of my emails would go to spam because who has a .ninja email address? I saw it. I thought it was cool. And so I grabbed it. And so I had to do a complete rebrand where we now are Ninja Prospecting. But we do a lot more than prospecting. I mean, we do a lot of coaching and support and business development and marketing. So eventually probably change it from Ninja Prospecting to Ninja Marketing and be more of a marketing company.
It's so funny about naming because people name things a lot of times without a super long-term view, I would say. Mm-hmm. And the most interesting example is that one of my companies 3 or 4 back, we had a new investor come in, and their name was One Liberty Ventures, and sounds like a really cool name. And the reason it sounds like a really cool name is that it's a really cool street address. Liberty Street in Boston is an old part of town, and if you have the house or the office right on the very end, well, its address is One Liberty. But then they moved, and I laugh at anybody that puts their address as their name, because changing names is really hard once you're established. And they moved out to the Alewife part of Cambridge, and they kept the name One Liberty for a few years after that, but they finally changed it, and I forget what they changed it to. And I was talking to somebody today that is a booking agency for getting on the high listenership podcasts, and they did a very what normally I would say is a very good thing, which is make sure your company says something about what you do, and yours does that. Okay, it is prospecting, and chop ninja, but they named themselves Speak On Podcasts.
That makes more sense.
Yeah, but they've decided that they're going to branch out, and they're not just going to do that. They're going to actually help people market their podcasts, and so they're going to have to go through a name change.
It's a ton of work. You don't realize how much stuff is connected, agreements and websites and marketing materials and logos and
I do know it's so
yeah.
It's a dreadful process to have to change your name, and so I think you don't want to name yourself after a locale, and you don't want to name yourself without thinking long and hard about, where do I think this will be in 10 years?
Yeah, and when I started this, I had no idea was I going to do this for 10 years, right? So I think that kind of played into it. Like, I'll just do this as kind of a little side project for fun. And it started to pick up steam, started to get better at it, started to bring on some team members to help me leverage my time. And yeah, but when I started this, I didn't see where it could go. And now, obviously, being, in this for almost 7 years, now I can kind of get a vision for where it can go. So it's definitely changed everything. I'm looking at everything differently.
Yeah. So will you be able to transition from the ninja prospecting, what you do today, which I realize you just said is not just prospecting, but now you're going to be doing a much broader set of marketing types of things. Is this something where you're going to keep company A running like it is, while in the background you're working on company B, and then when it's ready, you pull the switch? Or is this more going to be, okay, we're going to slowly transition and company A is just going to become company B? Through this sort of slow transition?
That's a good question, and I don't have an answer yet. It's because it's slightly different, but it's very similar. So I think just from a business standpoint, it'd be easier to start fresh. Obviously, keep doing what we're doing, but kind of phase out of it over time, and then kind of change to the new model that we're looking at. But yeah, it's kind of that interesting kind of time where I'm still having to manage the business that we have now, but as we're working on evolving it, is it a brand new business? Is it just an extension of what we're currently doing? So I see it more as a new venture, using all the tools and systems and team and knowledge that we have from the previous one, and just maybe a rebrand and repositioning. But yeah, I haven't quite figured that out just yet. And that's part of the challenge of being an entrepreneur is not having all the answers all at once and kind of figuring it out as you go.
Well, I had a company that I had to do a significant transformation with. It's not, I don't know that this is going to be super helpful, but there might be one idea in here. So it was a company that was in a market. It was actually fourth in a market that was declining. It was in the document management market, which was in the process of going away. And if you're first in a market that's declining, that's not a good place to be. It's way worse to be the fourth in that market that's going away. And so, and this is a great reason to change the name of the company, by the way. So I changed the name of the company. It was called Novasoft, and we changed its name to FactPoint, which is one of those names that's like 2 words and it doesn't mean anything. We weren't super creative about it, but it also, we could shape it in anything we wanted. But here's the mistake I made. One of the many mistakes that I describe in my book, because when the board said, now listen, there's still revenue to be made here, so you need to be cognizant of that and get all the revenue you can. But oh, by the way, you also have to start this new thing. And I should have said, no, that's not how it's going to work. You're going to have to put money in. I'm going to shut down the old thing gracefully and start something new. But I didn't do that. Instead, I said, okay, great. The sales guy and the sales team will keep the revenue going, and the marketing guy is all focused on the whole new thing. Except that sales can't necessarily do their job without help from marketing, and that would really be frustrating for sales. And so, and marketing kept complaining that if I can't focus on this new business, it'll never take off. And so ultimately, I'd made the wrong choice. And I'm not sure that necessarily means that you should shut one down and go to the other. I'm just saying it's very hard to smoothly transition from one thing into another. That's my only point.
Yeah. And then when I started this, I've had a corporation for 12 years because my CPA said, you should set up a corporation. So I did. So I think knowing how to actually run a business now with income and expenses and have it completely separate from, living off the income that I make and kind of commingling, I could be way better at that. But when I started, I had no idea. I mean, I found something that I enjoyed doing. We were good at it. It turned into a business. And I think starting fresh with a fresh set of books and a fresh approach and leveraging all the things we've done for the last 7 years would probably make more sense, because the goal eventually is to grow it to a point and then scale and sell. And I don't think I could do that the way I have things set up right now. So I think it makes more sense to kind of set something up that's new, almost like a newer version of what we've been doing, but just have it a lot cleaner.
Well, the key would be, for you to pull that off, the key would be the team. You'll have an expensive kind of double team for a little while, but
yeah,
and then the one person that has to kind of move back and forth, but that shouldn't be too difficult, is you. And anyway, so it's just here we are. We're brainstorming right here on the podcast.
Yeah, like the way I have it currently set up right now, which is super frustrating, is even though we give away our team, our VA team, to actually execute this stuff at cost every month, people are still paying me. And I'm like, okay, so I've got this large bill every month to pay my team, and it's basically, it's a wash, right? The people pay me, then I pay my team. So I'm like, why don't you just pay my team? Just cut me out of that part of it. I don't need to collect a couple $100 and then send it to my team. And so we're in that slow transition of getting rid of that large expenditure every month and changing up our revenue model. VA team, my team loves it because they're getting paid immediately versus having to wait 30 days, and just keeps it nice and clean. So we're kind of in the process of moving more to that model, which is good for everybody. But yeah, it's a bit of a process when you make any of these changes.
Mm-hmm. So like any startup person, you've had to develop grit, or else you already had it. What do you think your source of grit is?
Man, that's a good question. I mean, the life of a business owner and entrepreneur, I mean, you have stretches where things are going great and you're like, oh, this is awesome. Had a great week, had a great month. And then you have those months where things just don't come through. Clients that say they were coming on board end up, canceling or changing their mind, and makes you rethink your entire strategy. And should I be doing this? Are we adding value? Are we helping people? But man, I mean, it all comes back to, I want to provide the best life for my family. My dad did that for me. He was an entrepreneur. He started a business with, I'll tell you a story. It's pretty interesting. So he was a great salesperson, and he worked for a copier company, selling copiers and faxes back when, copiers and faxes were pretty, used regularly. So he worked for this guy, and the guy, not a nice man, he asked him to sign a non-compete while he was working for him, and said, hey, I need you to sign this saying that you're not going to ever go out and start your own business and be a competitor of me. And he saw that. I think he went home, slept on it, and came back, and he quit his job. He said, I'm not signing that. And he went out and started his own company with $500, and, sold a car, sold my mom's ring to start this business. And he grew it to $100 million company, a couple hundred employees, sold it to Icon Office Solutions. But he kind of had that moment where he's like, okay, I can either work for this guy, or I can start fresh and have my own thing and have no limit. So I think I learned a lot of that from my dad. And then, yeah, I think just kind of seeing the lifestyle that he created for our family growing up. We were always, my wife joked, she's like, you had like the perfect childhood. Your parents are awesome. They're still awesome. You grew up in this small town and you had everything. But I appreciated everything. I never took any of it for granted. My wife had a completely different childhood growing up. So, she can't relate to my childhood and I can't relate to her childhood. But I think having him as an example of this is what I want to have for my family, I think that's what helped me kind of develop that grit that I'm not going to work for somebody else. I'm going to start my own thing because I know I am in control. I can take my son to school every morning. I can pick him up every afternoon. I can take off for a week and enjoy vacation, even though I'm still, knee deep in the business. But having it's all on me. I'm not relying on anybody else. And I think I learned that from my dad.
That's cool. Was he in your book?
Yeah, he's the caddy master.
He's the caddy master. Is his name George?
His middle name is George.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, you have any last things you want to say?
No, I mean, I just appreciate, I'm so happy you and I crossed paths. I think you were referred by one of our clients, and then I connected you to some of the people I work with, and I knew as soon as we met, being that you're from Boston and I'm from Maine, that, we did, immediately have that Northeastern connection. And yeah, it's been awesome just kind of working with you and seeing what you do and having you help me through some of these challenging, conversations and where do I go from here and how do I grow this? I really appreciate having your guidance as we grow this.
I love the opportunity to hear the ideas and have some hopefully useful insights occasionally.
Absolutely. And hopefully one of these days we meet face to face. That's the one thing. I've only met probably, less than a handful. I can count on one hand how many clients I've worked with over the last 7 years that I've met face to face. It's always fun because, you're always on Zoom or phone calls and you never get to actually shake someone's hand and say thank you.
I will not come to Phoenix in the summer.
The pool's warm. It's beautiful out here. It doesn't rain.
Well, where I'm now swimming 3 days a week is in Walden Pond.
That's
so
awesome.
you remember that?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
It's like just an amazing place.
I loved growing up in Maine. I mean, we lived on the lake. We were in the water all the time. Small town of 3,000 people. I had 79 kids in my graduating class. In a perfect world, would I live in Phoenix and raise a little guy? I'm more of a give me wide open spaces. I want animals and I want land. It's kind of hard to do once you have kids, but I think once we're kind of past that phase, we'll probably go somewhere where we have some more space and kind of live the, not completely off the grid, but more off the grid.
Mm-hmm. Sounds fun. All right. Well, thanks very much. Wonderful to have you on. Thank you.
Yep.
That's going to be a wrap for today. Thanks for tuning into this week's episode of Adventures on the Can Do podcast. Remember to share and like us on your social media channels and check out the show notes for additional resources and links. I'm Jothy Rosenberg saying hasta la vista.